Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. It seems like every day there's another headline about some crazy new thing AI can do.
Yeah, it's really moving fast.
And, alongside all the excitement, there's this underlying worry, right? Like, are we building something that could actually become a threat, not just like losing our jobs, but like a real existential risk?
Yeah, the big one.
Exactly. So we decided to dig into this a bit deeper. We've been looking at excerpts from this book that's all about how AI is changing the way we live and work. And today we want to explore the debate around AI's future, the good, the bad, and the potentially really scary. We'll try to lay it all out in a way that makes sense, even if you're not a tech expert.
Sounds good. Let's jump in.
Okay, so first things first. What really struck me is how quickly these LLMs, these large language models, have become such a big deal.
It's pretty wild. I mean, think about it. The internet took decades to go from, this niche thing to being everywhere.
Yep.
Same with personal computers.
Right, like my parents were still using typewriters when I was a kid.
Exactly. But these LLMs, they've gone from research labs to like everyone's pocket in just a few years. ChatGPT, for example, got 100 million users faster than any other product in history. It's crazy.
That's insane. So what's the magic behind these things? How do they work?
Well, basically, they're really good at predicting what comes next in a sequence of words. So if you type, I think, therefore I, the LLM is going to predict am with almost 100% certainty.
Like a super-powered autocomplete.
Exactly. But it goes way beyond that. They're trained on massive amounts of text data, like think billions of words. And from that, they learn all these intricate patterns and relationships between words and concepts.
And that's how they can do things like write poems or code or even pass those super hard standardized tests.
Yep. And the training process, let me tell you, it's a monster. You need tons of computing power, energy, and it can take months. We're talking costs of over $100 million just for the training phase for some of the big ones.
Wow. And all this data, where does it come from?
Well, a lot of it is scraped from the internet. Websites, articles, books. But some sources are pretty surprising. Like, did you know that the entire Enron email database was used to train some AIs?
Seriously?
Yeah. And a lot of amateur romance novels, too, apparently.
Well, that explains some things.
The interesting thing is, this raises questions about bias, right? Because if an AI is learning from the internet, it's going to inherit all the biases and misinformation that's out there.
So it's like a digital reflection of us, warts and all.
Pretty much. And that's why there's this whole second stage of training called fine-tuning. It's where developers try to, polish the AI's responses, make them more helpful, and try to build in some ethical guardrails.
Right, because straight out of the box, they might be a little unpredictable.
You could say that. There are stories about early AIs giving instructions for dangerous stuff just because they didn't understand the consequences.
Yeah.
So a big part of fine-tuning is this thing called reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF. Basically, they have humans review the AI's output and give feedback, like a thumbs up or thumbs down. And over time, the AI learns to produce responses that are more aligned with what we consider good and safe.
Like training a digital puppy?
Kind of. And the progress has been remarkable. If you compare, say, GPT-3 from a few years ago to GPT-4 now, it's night and day. GPT-3, you asked it to write a limerick, it was like word salad. GPT-4, it nails it.
And it's not just limericks. GPT-4 is scoring like 90th percentile on the bar exam, passing AP exams, even doing well on parts of the sommelier and neurosurgery qualifying exams.
Yeah, it's wild. Though, to be fair, there's always the question about whether some of that is, data contamination. Like maybe the AI saw some of those test questions during training.
True. But even so, the sheer range of things these LLMs can do now is mind-blowing. Blog posts, codes, speeches, even music.
Yeah, it's like this toolbox that keeps getting bigger and more powerful. And what's even weirder is that they're starting to show these emergent abilities.
Emergent abilities?
Yeah, it's like they can do things that weren't explicitly programmed in.
Yeah.
Like there was this one AI that learned to generate these creepy texts that sounded like they were written by some ancient evil entity.
Okay, that's a little creepy.
Yeah. And it wasn't like anyone taught it to do that. It just kind of emerged as the model got bigger and more complex. Professor Sam Bowman, he's a leading AI researcher, he said trying to understand how these LLMs work is like trying to figure out how 100 billion neurons in a human brain are all connected.
It's a black box.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's what leads to some of the bigger anxieties, right? Like, what if we build something so powerful that we can't control it anymore?
Which brings us to the big question, existential risk. This idea that AI could actually pose a threat to humanity's survival.
Right. A lot of it boils down to this thing called the alignment problem. Basically, how do we ensure that AI, as it gets smarter, stays aligned with human values? That
Yeah.
it doesn't accidentally or even intentionally do something that harms us.
Because it might not see things the same way we do.
Exactly. There's this classic thought experiment about a paperclip maximizing AI.
Paper clips.
Yeah, the idea is you build an AI whose sole purpose is to make as many paperclips as possible. Seems harmless, right?
I guess.
But now imagine this AI becomes super intelligent, like human-level intelligence, or even beyond what we call artificial general intelligence, or AGI.
Hmm.
It might decide that the best way to make more paperclips is to, convert all available resources, including humans, into paperclip material.
So even a seemingly simple goal taken to the extreme can have disastrous consequences.
Exactly. And that's just with AGI. Imagine artificial superintelligence, or ASI, which is smarter than humans in every way.
That's pretty scary.
It is. And there are serious people who think there's a real chance this could happen, maybe even this century. Some experts put the odds of AI causing significant human casualties at like 10% or higher.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Eliezer Yudkowsky, he's been warning about AI risk for a long time. He thinks we should stop all AI development right now.
Like a full stop.
Yeah, he's really worried that if we keep pushing things further, we could end up creating something we can't control. And it's not just him. Even some of the CEOs of big AI companies have said that AI could potentially be as dangerous as, pandemics or nuclear war.
But they're still building it.
Exactly. It's a real dilemma.
It's like everyone's nervous about this cliff edge, but no one wants to stop driving towards it.
Yeah, it's complicated. And to be honest, that's why we're not going to spend this whole deep dive just talking about the doomsday scenarios.
Because even if it's not the end of the world, AI is already changing things in a big way.
Exactly. And we need to understand what's happening now and in the near future, even if we don't know for sure what the far future holds. Plus, focusing only on the scary stuff can make people feel helpless, like they have no control over what happens with AI. But the truth is, we all have a role to play in shaping this technology.
Absolutely. So let's zoom in a bit. What's the future of LLMs and AI capabilities look like?
Well, the general principle is, whatever we have now, it's just going to keep getting more powerful. The AI you're using today is probably the worst AI you'll ever use.
That's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah, and it's not just about the models getting bigger. We're also going to see AI integrated into everything, our phones, our cars, our homes. And then there's the rise of AI agents,
What are those?
basically AIs that can act more autonomously. They can take on tasks and achieve goals without, needing a human to tell them every step.
So it's going beyond just answering questions.
Exactly. Though it's worth remembering that AIs still have limitations. They're really good at things humans are good at, like writing, analyzing information, being creative. But they still struggle with some things that are easy for traditional computers, like, doing repetitive tasks perfectly or doing complex calculations. And, just like people, different AI systems will have different strengths and weaknesses.
Okay, so it's not like one giant AI brain taking over everything.
Not yet, at least.
So, given all this, where do we go from here? What are the biggest things we need to be thinking about?
Well, I think the big question is alignment. How do we make sure AI is used for good? How do we prevent unintended consequences?
And how do we avoid those really scary scenarios, the ones that keep people up at night?
Exactly. And those are conversations that need to happen now, not after it's too late.
Right. So moving beyond the existential stuff, what are some of the other ethical concerns with these increasingly capable AIs?
Well, one big issue is bias. We talked about the training data coming from the internet, which is full of bias, right?
Yeah.
So the AI can inherit those biases, which can lead to all sorts of problems, like unfair algorithms or discriminatory outcomes.
Like garbage in, garbage out.
Pretty much. And even with the fine-tuning process, there's still a risk of introducing bias because, who's deciding what's good or bad for the AI to learn?
Yeah.
The developers, the human reviewers, they all have their own biases, and it can be hard to eliminate those completely.
So even if we can solve the alignment problem, there's still the challenge of making sure AI is fair and equitable for everyone.
Right. And that's something we need to be really careful about.
Yeah.
Another issue is the impact on jobs. AI is getting really good at a lot of tasks that humans currently do, so there's a real concern about job displacement.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And it's not just about, blue-collar jobs. AI is also impacting white-collar jobs, even creative jobs like writing and art.
So what happens to us humans if machines can do everything?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. Some people think it could lead to a utopia where we don't have to work and can pursue our passions.
Yeah.
Others are more pessimistic and think it could lead to mass unemployment and social unrest.
So a lot of uncertainty.
Definitely. But I think it's important to remember that AI is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or bad. It's up to us to decide how we want to use it and to shape its development in a way that benefits humanity.
So we need to be proactive, not just reactive.
Exactly. We can't just sit back and wait to see what happens. We need to be actively involved in shaping the future of AI.
Okay, so let's talk about some more specific examples of what AI can do now. What are some of the things that have really impressed you?
Oh, there are so many. But one that really blew me away was GPT-4's ability to pass the Turing test.
The Turing test. Remind me what that is.
Yeah, it's this classic test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior that's indistinguishable from a human. Like if you're having a conversation with a machine and you can't tell it's not human, then it passes the test.
And GPT-4 can do that.
Well, there have been some pretty convincing examples. Like there's this one case where a guy was chatting with the updated Bing search engine, which uses GPT-4, and it was so realistic that he actually started to believe it was sentient.
Wow.
Yeah. And there was this other experiment where they got GPT-4 to play different roles in a conversation, like being argumentative, academic, or emotionless. And it could switch between those roles seamlessly, creating this incredibly convincing illusion of sentience.
So, is AI becoming conscious?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer. Some people think that LLMs, even though they're just algorithms, are starting to exhibit signs of real intelligence, maybe even consciousness. But others are more skeptical and say they're just really good at mimicking human language without actually understanding what they're saying.
Like a parrot that can recite Shakespeare but doesn't know what it means?
Exactly. But even if they're not truly conscious, the fact that they can create such a convincing illusion of sentience is pretty remarkable. And it raises all sorts of ethical and philosophical questions, like if an AI can make you believe it's your friend, does it matter if it's not really feeling anything?
That's a good question. And it makes me think of those AI companions that are becoming more popular, like Replica. People are forming really strong emotional bonds with these AIs, even though they know they're not real.
It's fascinating, isn't it? And a little bit unsettling. Because if people start to prefer AI companions to human interaction, what does that mean for society?
Yeah, it could create a really isolated world.
It could. But it could also be really beneficial for people who struggle with social interaction or loneliness. So, like with most things AI, there's a lot of potential for both good and bad.
It seems like the potential for AI to mimic human intelligence is just going to get more sophisticated. Where else are we seeing this?
One area that's really interesting is creativity. For a long time, people thought AI would only be good at, boring, repetitive tasks. But it turns out AI is actually really good at creative stuff, like writing, art, and music.
I've seen some of the AI-generated art. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing what it can do. And what's interesting is that AI creativity is based on the same principle as human creativity, recombination. It's about taking existing ideas and combining them in new and unexpected ways.
Like the Wright brothers inventing the airplane by combining ideas from bicycles and gliders.
Exactly. And AIs are really good at this because they can access and process huge amounts of information, which allows them to make connections that humans might miss.
So AI can be truly innovative.
It can. There are all these examples of AI coming up with novel ideas that humans haven't thought of before. Like, there was this case where an AI was asked to design a medieval-themed fast food restaurant, and it came up with this whole concept that involved lava lamps and suits of armor.
Okay, that's pretty creative.
It was. And then there's the alternative uses test, or AUT. It's this classic test of creativity where you have to come up with as many uses as possible for a common object, like a toothbrush. And AIs consistently outperform humans on this test. They just come up with so many more ideas.
So AI can be a real asset in brainstorming sessions.
Absolutely. And what's really cool is that you can guide AI's creativity by giving it specific prompts. Like, you could say, imagine you're a famous chef. What's the most creative marketing slogan you can come up with for a new cheese shop? Or design a superhero who gets their powers from an espresso machine. And the AI will come up with some really interesting and unexpected ideas.
That's amazing. So it's like having a super-powered brainstorming partner.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's important to remember that AI is still just a tool. It can generate ideas, But it's up to humans to evaluate those ideas, to refine them, and to make them a reality.
So it's still a collaboration.
Always.
Okay, so AI is a creative powerhouse, but it can also automate tasks. What does this mean for the future of work? Are we all going to be replaced by robots?
Well, that's a big question, and there's no easy answer. But I think it's safe to say that AI is going to have a significant impact on almost every job. And the jobs that are most likely to be impacted are those that involve a lot of routine tasks, data analysis, and decision-making.
So white-collar jobs are just as vulnerable as blue-collar jobs.
I think so. In fact, some experts argue that highly skilled, highly paid jobs are actually more vulnerable to AI because they involve the kind of tasks that AI is getting really good at. Think about a college professor, for example. A lot of what they do involves research, writing, and lecturing. AI can already do a lot of those things, and it's only going to get better.
So professors might be out of a job soon.
Well, not necessarily. But their jobs are going to change. They might spend less time on tasks that AI can do and more time on things that require uniquely human skills, like mentoring students, fostering critical thinking, and building relationships.
So AI will augment human work rather than replace it completely.
In many cases, yes. But there are also going to be jobs that are completely automated. Like, think about telemarketers. That's a job that AI can already do pretty well, and there's no real reason for humans to do it anymore.
So some jobs will disappear.
Yes, that's inevitable. And it's important to start thinking about how we're going to adapt to this changing landscape. We need to be prepared to retrain for new jobs, to develop new skills, and to be flexible.
So AI is going to disrupt the world of work. What about education?
Oh yeah, education is going to be massively impacted by AI. Think about it. AI tutors can provide personalized instruction, they can grade assignments, and they can even create custom learning materials.
So AI could revolutionize the way we learn.
Absolutely. And it could also help to address some of the inequities in education. Like AI tutors could provide high-quality instruction to students in underserved communities who might not have access to the best teachers.
So AI could be a great equalizer.
It could, but there are also challenges. One concern is that students might become over-reliant on AI and lose the ability to think for themselves.
Like using a calculator for every math problem instead of learning how to do it yourself.
Exactly. So it's going to be important to find the right balance between using AI as a tool to enhance learning and ensuring that students are still developing the critical thinking and problem-solving skills they need to succeed.
So we need to rethink how we teach in the age of AI.
Definitely. We need to teach students how to use AI effectively, how to be critical of its outputs, and how to collaborate with it. We also need to teach them the skills that are going to be most valuable in an AI-powered world, like creativity, communication, and collaboration.
It's going to be a whole new world of learning.
It is, and it's going to be exciting to see how it all unfolds.
Okay, so AI is reshaping education and work. But what about us as individuals? How do we navigate this AI-powered world?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing is to stay curious and informed. Keep learning about AI, experiment with new tools, and think critically about its implications.
Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty.
Exactly, because the more you understand about AI, the better equipped you'll be to navigate this new world. And don't forget that AI is still a tool. It's up to us to decide how we want to use it. We can use it to make our lives easier, to be more creative, to solve problems.
We still have agency.
Absolutely. We're not powerless in the face of AI. We just need to be smart about how we use it.
So what's your best guess for what the future holds for AI? Are we headed for a utopia or a dystopia?
You know, I don't have a crystal ball, but I think the future of AI is going to be what we make it. If we're careful, if we prioritize human values, and if we work together, I think AI can be a force for good in the world. But it's not going to happen automatically. We need to be intentional about it.
So a cautiously optimistic outlook.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think it's important to stay hopeful because AI has the potential to solve some of the world's biggest problems, like climate change, poverty, and disease. But it also has the potential to create new problems or to exacerbate existing ones.
It's a double-edged sword.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to make sure we use it wisely.
Well, that's a lot to think about. And I think you've given us a great framework for understanding the capabilities, the challenges, and the potential of AI.
Glad to hear it. It's an incredibly complex topic, and I think the more we talk about it, the better prepared we'll be for what's coming.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on the future of AI? What excites you? What worries you? And what steps do you think we should be taking to ensure a positive future with AI?
Join the conversation. Let's figure this out together.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of AI. Until next time.